Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you that don't know about the show, this is where I take 10 questions that have been asked by our subscribers and answer them to the best of my ability. Our subscribers are the subset of our community that contribute money every month to enable us to do a greater degree of community content. It's one of the things that sets Star Citizen apart from pretty much most games out there, is that we really spend a lot of time and effort on trying to engage and share things with all of you out there. And the subscribers make that possible, so they make us, we can shoot this, we shoot, Around the Verse and Bug Smashers, Shipshape, and a whole bunch of other shows. And we'll have some more now that we're in our new place. And this is actually the last 10 for the Chairman I will do from here. We're actually going to have out in our little stage, and there'll be a little set to do 10 for the Chairman, just like there'll be for Around the Verse and all the rest, which I think we're going to be debuting this week, so that's going to be very cool. And it's really nice to sort of have it sort of a partition so we can shoot and not have everyone talking in the background or distracting people developing while we're doing all this. So, but it's all made possible by the subscribers, so thank you very much for that. And that's why I try to answer 10 questions. And so speaking of thank you, there's a really nice RSI ball cap that showed up here. So let's see if it works for me, although it's probably fairly, it's on the super tight setting. There you go, less tight, there you go. So I got my little RSI ball cap. And there's a very nice card, Christmassy card from they're here over in, says Underground, Hampton Court by Tram. And it says, Dear Christmas, Merry Christmas, encloses a present for you, not only in keeping with the holiday season, but also for the release of Star Citizen 2.0, and most appropriately having the RSI Constellation Andromeda ready to fly. I made 2 of these hats, and I can think of no better person to have one than you. May it keep the sun out of your eyes and on the tennis court and in space for years to come. Give my best to Sandy, Ben, Jared, and everyone else at CAG this Christmas season. Sincerely, Brian and Chelsea. So thank you very much, Brian and Chelsea. And this is very apropos because, I'm shooting this on Friday, but it'll air on Monday. But as of today, we are deploying to live. So by the time you watch me or watch this, hopefully a whole bunch of people will have been playing on 2.0 and it won't have fallen over too badly. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all the videos of people's shenanigans and seeing what people get up to, because there's already been some really cool stuff I've seen on the PTU. And of course, we'll be constantly improving it. We have one more patch we're going to do 2.1 before the end of the year, and that will have some new things in it. So that should be pretty cool, and that's not really that far out, because obviously the end of the year is pretty close. So that's what we're deploying live and we're rolling over. So some of the sort of like further optimizations we're working on, some of the bug fixes and a few bits of new content are going to go into 2.1, which everyone will get to experience in probably, next few weeks, definitely before Christmas. So there you go. So it's a good day today, and pretty sure, hopefully it'll be a good day on Monday, because I'm in the future or the past, I can't remember. Anyway, here we go. Let's ask the 10 questions. So the first one comes from a Rodas, or R0Das, who asks, I recently have stopped playing an FPS game that uses CryEngine because of the amount of cheats players are using. Aimbot, for example. Are you considering any special cares for the SC against these kind of activities? So we definitely are aware and have plans to do stuff to crack down on cheating. Obviously, we're very early stage. So at these early days, we're not doing as much as we will do long term, because we're just trying to get the basic fundamentals in there. I'm not sure which CryEngine game that you were playing. That was an FPS one. It depends on whether it was sort of a peer-to-peer or a server-client model. Server-client model's a bit easier to sort of kind of validate and make sure there isn't as much cheating, because you own the server, which we would. And that's and you can always do sanity checking against what the client is doing. So, so we definitely plan to have stuff in there to try and stop people from cheating by using bots and everything. I mean, there's always ways that people figure out how to do stuff, but that definitely is on our roadmap to make trying to make the experience as good for everyone as possible. And I would also say that, it is, Star Citizen isn't a pure competitive FPS game. It has everything, right? I mean, that's part of what you can sort of see in 2.0. There is FPS stuff that's flying the ships around, and in the bigger universe, it's just going to be exploration and visiting places, talking to people, doing things like hauling cargo or mining. And so I don't think it will have the same sort of pressure that you sort of see in a sort of straight up FPS sort of arena shooter or something, like a Team Fortress or, Warface, which is a crisis-based sort of free-to-play shooter and stuff. So we'll see, but we definitely are going to try our best to make sure that people don't abuse the system and cheat. Okay, next question comes from Kremer, who asks, in the previous 10 for the chairman, you talked about NPCs being useful or not. For instance, when they have to do maintenance or use a manned turret, depending on their skill. Will they have levels or maybe ranks? How will we be able to help them increase that experience? So yes, NPCs absolutely will. I mean, they will be treated much more like you would have a character in sort of a traditional RPG game. They'll have skill levels. They'll probably have different traits, whether it's sort of strength or loyalty, or dexterity or intelligence. And skills with certain things like skill of being a gunner, skill of being a pilot. As so we'll generate them at different levels, like the sort of, rookie starting out that's not so good will obviously be much cheaper to hire than the veteran that's super badass at a bunch of stuff. So you can also get what you pay for in terms of hiring your NPCs. But if you sort of start with someone that isn't as experienced, the more you take them into battles and stuff, they'll level up and they'll get better and more experience, just kind of, like people do in real life, right? And so we do these sort of stats for the NPCs because we sort of need to track how they get better and everything. We're just not doing it for the player because we want the player to be you doing it in your skill, so it's you getting better playing the game, not necessarily just leveling up stuff. So that'll be there. You'll sort of get some access to it. I'm not sure we'll expose the individual sort of background stats we track, but you'll sort of get an idea of whether they're sort of experienced or, veteran or rookie and stuff like that. So there you go. All right, next question comes from Deg Gorf, who asks, will ship sensors be able to scan an area for evidence of a ship having been there recently, i.e. some kind of thruster trail or reactor emissions left behind? Could enhanced sensors scan for quantum drive wakes and determine where the ship jumped to, possibly even what kind of ship jumped? That's a very good idea. I don't think we have that in our initial sort of like plan of sort of kind of scanning and functions and stuff. But I think longer term, that would probably be something that would be something we would, once we have the basics in there, could add, because it would be really good for sort of like bounty hunting and sleuthing missions where you could sort of show up and kind of get an idea of was this person here or not by sort of like the IR, like sort of the residue radiation signature or something like that. So not yet, but I would say longer term, yes. Okay, next question comes from Quartz Bear, who asks, with the introduction of the Avenger Warlock, we've gotten our first glimpse at the prospects for non-lethal combat options. Will it be possible to add such non-lethal combat modules to other ships, say an EMP module as a defense for a hospital ship? Yes, it will be possible to add non-lethal combat modules to other ships. EMP isn't going to be strictly limited to the Warlock. We actually have some sort of modules and plans for some of the other ships. Obviously there normally be sort of bigger ships or whatever that would have them, but we're definitely building the game to be quite sort of item and component centric or module centric. So you'll be able to switch and chop and change how your ship's equipped more so than you have in the past. I mean, one of our drawbacks, because the underlying system actually supports this already, is just generating all the components with the variety of functionality. So we have a plan for that. It's just, there's so many things in terms of just getting the ships out and other things that, even though we have a pretty big team for a game of this size with this many options, it's, there's like never enough people. But absolutely we're planning for you to be able to switch out components and sort of customize your ship, and one of those things would be, say, EMP. So from Liang Long asks, is it possible to raid a supply shipment, not for piracy, but to destroy it, to possibly damage a rival org's cargo, thus its revenue and operations? Yes, absolutely. That is going to be possible to do it, not only for in the world, like sort of the NPCs, supplies or goods or equipment or resource that are going between resource nodes or stations, planets. But you could definitely do it for orgs as well, I would think, player-controlled ones, depending on what they were moving around for their own stuff. But we're really going to try to have a game that's based around having like being able to deal with logistics. So you're going to need, we've mentioned it before, but you'll need things like fuel. Certain kinds of ammunition are obviously consumable, right? So ballistics are consumable. There'll be other sort of consumables that'll happen. So if you're out on the frontier or you're waging a war, there'll definitely be the need to rearm, restock, refuel. And you'll have to get those arms or weapons. Maybe someone can sell them to you. Maybe your org has someone coming in with a supply ship to do that. We have a variation of the Crucible that would be sort of a restock and supply version that you could use in the background to backdrop of sort of an offensive or something to bring it in. So we definitely want to make that part of gameplay for sort of the bigger organization team play stuff, because we think it's one of the most interesting things is not just the frontline combat, it's how people work together as a team to achieve things. And obviously logistics are pretty good with that. And therefore one of the techniques to sort of degrade your opponent is to, go for its supply lines. So yes, that will definitely sort of come out as emergent gameplay in the system that we're setting up. Okay, next question comes from Avatus, who asks, question, if you own an alien ship, will that race recognize you as one of their own, a delayed death until they figure out who you are, or immediate recognition? Well, to be honest with you, we haven't really thought about that. You're not likely in the near future here to be sort of in the Jean Scout and coming up against Jean Raiders that are going to attack you, because the Jean are more to the edges of the UEE, so we're going to be building out some of the interior parts first. I don't think they would necessarily recognize you as one of their own. They probably would know that the Jean ship you're flying is the sort of human modified sail one, which is what the Scout we're doing is. And then if you're on if you're on territory you shouldn't be, then maybe they would do something about it. They may potentially be a little more friendly or predisposed to you because you've bought something that uses their technology. But in general, the Jean don't fire on sight against humans. For instance, they're actually, even though there's a bit of a standoff, if you want to think of it a bit like China and America, trade together, but maybe there's some idealistic differences and they kind of distrust each other, but still work together pretty closely. I think that would be a good analogy for the Jean Empire. And then I think if you run across Vandal flying a captured scythe or a glaive, they just generally would know from the scan that you were a Vandal or not, and probably go after you in fairly short order. Although if you had sort of a captured one that was sort of rigged to sort of spoof being part of a Vandal clan, then perhaps you may be able to slip through or slip by, but we haven't really sort of fleshed that fully out yet. Okay, next question comes from Twitch, who asks, I have a dream of being a smuggler in the PTU. Will I be able to create hidden compartments in my ship to hide certain items? Yes, we are absolutely going to have that. So we're going to have the ability, we're kind of trying to think of how to sort of do smuggler caches, because obviously we want to have some sort of creativity up to the player. So it's not like, oh, here's always a secret compartment in the Constellation, because obviously then law enforcement would know where to look. So we still have to sort of finalize the design on that, but the intention is to allow you to sort of buy or purchase or install certain items that could potentially have like false bottoms or all that kind of stuff to hide some cargo. And then maybe if someone's playing the role of an officer or something, or an NPC, they come in and they board you and they check the ship out and give you a pass, and then you fly on and you can smuggle in that contraband and stuff like that. So that's absolutely going to be part of the gameplay. It's a long, obviously not happening tomorrow in 2.0, because there's some more basic gameplay like just cargo hauling and those kind of things, bounty hunting, mercenary escort missions that would probably happen first, but smuggling is definitely on the list, and it's kind of a fun one and kind of involves interaction with other NPCs and potentially other players. So yes, we will be able to do that. Okay, next question comes from Arathi, who asks, will you be able to use the gravitation of planets, large objects to catapult you, or will it otherwise impact the flight model? Probably not going to model sort of gravity in planets to the level that we can sort of do the sort of slingshot stuff that NASA does when it's trying to figure trajectories, or how to get back to Earth from the moon and all that sort of stuff. We are going to model gravity to a certain extent where, there's a planet, you're landing on a planet. Well, the sort of effect of gravity as you get close to the planet is greater, right? So like in the upper atmosphere, a distance out from Earth, you're not at 9.8 meters per second. It's less than that. So we will do that level of it, and gravity will have some effect on flight, and on atmospheric flight and all that kind of stuff as well. And you can actually, even now, if you fly in the game and you go onto some of the landing pads themselves actually have artificial gravity and a sort of volume around them. And in that case, the actual flight model compensates for it. So the thrusters and everything produce additional thrust to negate the gravity. So it does actually affect the flight model, and we're anticipating when we sort of get down and do sort of stuff closer to planets and this atmosphere and all the rest of stuff, then there'll be even more of that. Penultimate question comes from Chillzilla, who asks, the climatic chase through the claustrophobic tunnels of the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi really highlighted Lando's skill as a pilot. The changing and narrowing of tunnels requiring constant recorrection to navigate them safely. Similarly, the absolute extreme of this is Neob's complete control of the Logos and the Matrix revolutions while escaping the Sentinels. Are we likely to experience environments like this within the PU or missions in Squadron 42 that will equally challenge your piloting skill and true maneuverability of your ship? I would say yes, definitely. I think we've mentioned before, but jump points in some ways are going to be quite similar to this. I mean, not necessarily going through a Death Star, but they are tunnels that collapse and undulate and move around and narrow. And the more risky, the more unstable ones are worse that way. But sometimes the more risky, unstable ones are the best shortcut to get to a location. And so what our plan is that navigating a jump point potentially, if it's not a safe one, can require some extreme piloting skills along the lines of what we described here. And then I'm pretty sure we'll have some other areas where whether it's sort of like flying inside a kind of big structure in space, or even down planet side, we'll put some challenges in there that could be pretty cool. I mean, the possibilities are endless with the structure in the game that we're building. It's one of the reasons why it's taking so long, but we are engineering it to do some pretty amazing things. So I think you'll all appreciate that. And we have something cool to show in a few days to sort of underline that. All right, last question comes from Banjo, who says, what is your feeling about the recent Star Citizen 2.0 PTU testing experience? Is there any downside to publishing new patches so frequently? Well, I think the only downside is that we spend a lot of money on CDN costs. So every time we push 30 gigs to thousands of players, we're paying for all that data bandwidth getting pushed down from our CDN provider, who's Amazon AWS. So that is kind of the downside, but the upside is that we get much better turnaround and iteration. We were looking at the stats, and the last PTU build before we went to live compared to the first PTU build was over 100 times more stable than the first one, which is a pretty massive change in a fairly short period of time. And a lot of that was because we had a large group of players stress testing in a way that we just can't do internally. I mean, currently we have about 25 QA between the UK and the US, which is not a small amount of QA, but on a game this big, it's really hard to sort of cover all the features and stress test it. But when we're out on the PTU, we can have 1,000 people concurrently, and that can really be sort of pushing, what we see, push the engine, have cases created that we wouldn't see in an internal test case, and allow us to see some of the problems. And we're continuing to sort of add to improve on stuff. So we're going to have some crash reporting automated stuff built in some future versions of the clients we'll give people, so we can see like the call stacks and kind of what was going on the client side, as well as what we see on the server side, which we already do. So it's I think the 2.0 PTU testing experience was really great. I think it's the one that we spent a fair amount of time on the PTU comparatively to what we've done before. It's also the build we're delivering that probably stresses the engine in the game that most people have ever done. We got a lot of like, just the sheer scope and scale of it. A lot of features like the zone system and the local physics, local grid. They're all very new systems. And of course we've flown around on them, but we haven't like got all the edge cases that you get when you've got tens of thousands of people playing it and seeing if it can break or not. So it was pretty impressive to go from where we started to where we are releasing it live, and that's really because of sort of that PTU iterative process, getting a new build out, seeing if things worked, or even sometimes we put some things in there that may have made the experience a little worse because we actually had some extra bug track, memory walking to see if there was memory corruption and stuff like that. And so I thought the PTU experience was great, and we kind of want to focus on more of that where, before we do a patch, we're on the PTU for at least a week or so we give it some time, we get enough people hammering on it, and we can sort of fix some issues, and then we go live. So that's kind of going to be our sort of newer model going forward starting next year. So anyway, it was great, and I would like to thank everyone that participated on the PTU, because we're delivering 2.0 to everybody, or have delivered 2.0 to everybody because of their dedication and willing to get in the game after it crashes after 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And I think now we're at a point where people exit the game normally or play for hours before they even see a crash, which is pretty good, because if you think about it, in the past, Arena Commander, those are short games. They don't last for hours. And so in those particular cases, you may not have even played it long enough to see the engine start to get into troubles because it's just too many things have been created and some things have been left around. So everyone working on the PTU really makes a big difference. And like I said, we're going to build some more tools to make that even better, iterative process. So we really appreciate it. And I think we got a pretty good production plan for the coming year. That I think will be good for all the teams here and everyone out there, and I'm excited. So anyway, thank you PTU testers. Hopefully people are having a great time on 2.0 live right now, and thank you to everyone that's backed Star Citizen. You make it all possible. I hope that we're showing stuff to you every day that makes you feel good about backing us. We're trying to do nothing less than build the best possible game we can that's has a level of scope and ambition and scale that you haven't seen before, and I think we're starting to show the bits that make Star Citizen special compared to other games. You certainly can sort of see that the beginning of it in 2.0, and thank you to the subscribers who make this show possible, and a lot of other things that we do for the general community at large. And I will see you guys on our live stream in a few days. All right. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.
This video made possible by the ICC Stellar Surveyors and subscribers like you.